For over a century, there was a rule in physics: 299 million meters per second. The universe's absolute speed limit. That great wall impossible to overcome. But we were completely wrong, because this isn't a speed. The truth emerged when we studied the geometry of space-time. This colossal number is actually a conversion rate between space and time. A photon's journey from the Sun to Earth takes 8 minutes, but for the photon itself, that duration is exactly 0 seconds, because it does not experience time. This value, which could circle the Earth 7 times in a second, is not a speed record. It's a geometric necessity of being massless. But that's not the most confusing part. The real question is this: how could you, sitting right where you are, be moving at the speed of light? If you feel the thrill of this fundamental secret of the universe, then like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because everything you thought you knew about physics is about to be shattered. Let's begin. There's a number you see everywhere in physics textbooks: 299,792,458 meters per second. We call it the speed of light because for more than 100 years, it was considered the ultimate speed limit of the universe. Nothing can go faster. If it doesn't have zero mass, it can't even reach it. But what almost no one tells you is this: the speed of light, well, is not actually a speed in the way we understand it. It's not about how fast light moves through space. It's about something far stranger, something that reveals the true architecture of the universe. But because what we call the speed of light is actually a property of space-time itself. This idea fundamentally shatters everything we know, because we always think of speed like this, going from one place to another. Imagine a car traveling at 100 kilometers per hour. This car covers distance in space as time passes. It covers a distance of 100 kilometers every hour. Speed is a relationship between space and time. A ratio, distance divided by duration. So, when you go faster, you cover more distance in less time. This makes sense because space and time feel like completely separate things to us. Space is where things happen. Time is when things happen. And speed is what connects them. But this separation may be nothing more than a grand illusion, because space and time are not independent. They are two different faces of a single thing, space-time. That's why the speed of light doesn't describe a motion. It defines a geometry. It expresses a fundamental truth about the shape of reality. So, what does this mean? Exactly. Imagine you have a ruler. One side measures in centimeters, the other in inches. There's a conversion factor between them, approximately 2.54 centimeters per inch. This number doesn't describe a movement, it describes an equivalence. It tells you how two different ways of measuring the same thing relate to each other. The speed of light works in precisely this way, because it is the conversion factor between space and time, between meters and seconds. 1 second of time is equivalent to 299,792,458 meters of space in the fabric of space-time. Not because light moves that fast, but because space-time is built that way. This is why physicists do exactly this in their relativity equations. They set the speed of light equal to 1. This isn't a mathematical trick. It's about revealing a fundamental truth about the universe. Suddenly, space and time have the same units. they become interchangeable. Time becomes a kind of space, and space becomes a kind of time. And what we call the speed of light becomes merely the exchange rate between them. But that's not the most shocking part. The most shocking part is what this geometry means for you. Right now, you think you're sitting still. You think you're not moving at all. But you are wrong. You are moving. Because you are traveling through the dimension of time at a speed of 1 second per second. This is your maximum speed in the time dimension. Now, imagine you start to move through space. You get up, you walk, you get in a car. As you move faster through space, something happens to your movement through time. It slows down. This is called time dilation, and it's not a side effect of motion. It's a direct consequence of space-time geometry. Because your total speed through space-time is always constant. It is always equal to the speed of light. Everyone's. Everything's. When you move through space, you have to borrow that motion from your motion through time. That's why the faster you go through space, the slower you move through time. This also explains why nothing with mass can ever reach the speed of light. Because mass binds you to time. If you have mass, you are forced to move through time, and you are forced to experience duration. You cannot bend your path through space-time to be entirely through space. A part of you, forever, must always move through time. But light has no mass. Photons are not bound to time. Therefore, they can move entirely through space. Their entire speed in space-time is spatial. This is why a photon does not experience time. From a photon's perspective, if it even makes sense to talk about a photon's perspective, the entire journey from its emission to its absorption happens instantly. The light that travels from the sun to Earth in 8 minutes is a duration we measure from our frame of reference. The photon itself experiences none of it, because it exists in a single, timeless instant. This is not a metaphor. This is literally true. Time dilation has been measured thousands of times. Just put an atomic clock on an airplane, fly it around the world, and when it lands, you'll see it has measured less time than an identical clock that stayed on the ground. When you reach 90% of the speed of light, time slows to about half its normal rate, at 99.999% speed. Time almost comes to a complete stop. All of this shows just how misleading our concept of speed really is. We thought space and time were separate. But they are a single fabric. We thought speed was a limit. But it's just a conversion rate. And most importantly, we thought we were standing still. But we are all, at every moment, traveling through space-time at the speed of light. The only question is, how much of that journey is through space, and how much is through time? But this truth opens an even deeper door, because this constant speed defines not just motion, but a fundamental law that governs every interaction in the universe. It defines causality itself. It determines the maximum speed at which one event can affect another. So, what does this mean? It means the speed at which the future is created from the past is constant. And this truth holds a secret that could change everything we know about the structure of the universe. Because this truth holds a secret that could change everything we know about the structure of the universe. Because the speed of light isn't just about light, it's about causality. It's about cause and effect. It is the maximum speed at which one event can influence another. The maximum speed at which information can travel. The speed of light, thus, is actually the speed of causality. It's the speed at which the future is created from the past. This is why traveling faster than the speed of light is impossible. It's not just a technological challenge. It's not about building a better engine. It's about causality itself. If you could send information faster than light, you could send information back in time. You could create a cause that comes after its effect. You could know the answer before asking the question. Because the universe would cease to make sense. Causality would collapse. This situation divides the universe into regions called light cones. When an event happens, for example, here and now, imagine a sphere of influence expanding outward from that event at the speed of light. This sphere defines the boundary of causality. Events inside the sphere can be affected by the original event, but events outside it cannot. Not yet. This sphere continues to expand forever, carrying the influence of the event outward, but always at the same maximum speed, 299,792,458 meters per second. This means, right now, something is happening on the other side of the galaxy. A star is exploding or a planet is forming. That event is real. It's happening. But it's not yet part of your universe, because the light from that event hasn't reached you. Causality hasn't arrived yet. You and that event are separated by a space-time gap larger than the distance light can travel in the time that has passed. You live in different nows. Your now and its now are not the same. But there is a far stranger truth holding this entire structure together. Perhaps the most mind-bending fact in all of physics. The speed of light is the same for everyone who observes it. It doesn't matter how fast the observer is moving. This is completely contrary to common sense. Because if you're on a train moving at 100 kilometers per hour, and you throw a ball forward at 20 kilometers per hour, someone standing on the ground sees the ball moving at 120 kilometers per hour. The speeds add up. That's how motion works. But this rule doesn't apply to light. If you're in a spaceship traveling at half the speed of light, and you turn on a flashlight pointing forward, the light does not move at 1.5 times the speed of light relative to a stationary observer. It moves at exactly the speed of light, always, for everyone, the same speed. How is this possible? How can the same beam of light have the same speed for two different observers moving at different velocities? The answer is that space and time are not fixed. They adjust, they stretch, they reshape themselves so that light always moves at the same speed. That's why if you are moving, your measurements of space and time change, distances contract, durations expand. The universe reconfigures itself to keep the speed of light constant. This is not an illusion. It's not a measurement error. This is exactly how space-time works. But why? Why must the universe behave this way? Why does it protect the speed of light as such a sacred constant? The answer lies in symmetry, because there is a kind of symmetry inherent in the nature of space-time. It's the same in every direction. It's the same at every time. It doesn't care where you are, when you are, or how fast you're moving. The laws of physics are the same everywhere and at all times. This symmetry, this uniformity, demands the existence of a maximum speed that is the same for everyone. A speed that connects space and time. We call this speed the speed of light. But we could just as well have called it the speed of space-time, or the speed of causality, Because it is the fundamental constant that defines how reality is structured. Light moves at this speed, not because it's special, but because it's massless. Because anything with zero mass must move at this speed. So do gravitational waves. If there are massless particles in the universe we haven't discovered yet, they too will move at this speed. The speed of light, is actually the speed of masslessness. It's the speed at which everything unconstrained by mass must travel. And so the picture becomes clear. The speed of light is not like the speed of a car. It's a conversion rate, a constant that turns space into time, and time into space. This constant determines the speed of causality, and the universe bends space and time to ensure this speed remains the same for everyone. These theories are incredible. They challenge the mind. But are they just mathematical equations? Just abstract ideas that existed in Einstein's mind? Or is there concrete evidence in the universe itself that proves this strange reality? Because the consequences of these ideas are not limited to atomic clocks and particle accelerators. They fundamentally shape the structure of the universe on the largest scales, the fate of the most distant galaxies, and what we see when we look up at the sky. It's time to move beyond the theory, because the real discoveries are even more astonishing than the theory itself. The observations have shown us. The observations have shown us that the universe does not actually exist everywhere at the same time. They've shown that our perception of reality is a grand illusion. Because the fact that the speed of light is finite is not just a theoretical concept. It is an engine that creates the most fundamental and most shocking features of the universe. And now, it's time to face the realities that engine has created. Because the real shock starts now. The first discovery is actually above your head every night. What do you see when you look at the sky? Stars? No. You see ghosts. The last whispers reaching you from beings that died billions of years ago. This is not poetry. This is physics. Because even if the bright point you see is our closest neighbor, Proxima Centauri, it's not there at the moment you look at it. You are seeing it as it was 4.2 years ago. It took its light 4.2 years to reach us. But that's just the beginning. Look at the Andromeda Galaxy, that giant spiral structure. When you look at it, the species Homo sapiens was just beginning to walk the planet, because that light started its journey 2.5 million years ago. Look even farther, to the most distant galaxies seen by the Hubble or Webb telescopes. That is light from 13 billion years ago. The universe itself is only 13.8 billion years old. Yet so, you are looking at the infancy of the universe. This should feel intuitively impossible, because our brains evolved to believe that what we see is now. But the universe doesn't care, because the speed of light is finite. You can never see the now, only the past. The universe is not a place for you. It's a time machine. And the farther you look, the deeper you go. Sat. But this leads to a second, much more disturbing discovery. Parts of the universe are disappearing for us, forever. Right now, they are being erased from before our very eyes. How can this be? Because the universe is expanding, and this expansion is the expansion of space itself. Galaxies are embedded in this expanding fabric of space, and a galaxy that is far enough away can recede from us faster than the speed of light due to the expansion of space. This requires a moment to pause and think. Wasn't moving faster than light forbidden? Yes, moving through space faster than light is forbidden. But there is no speed limit for space itself. This means that beyond a certain distance, a boundary called the cosmic horizon, the universe is receding from us faster than light. That distance today is about 46.5 billion light-years. A photon of light leaving a galaxy at that boundary, even if it moves toward us, can never reach us, because the space in between is expanding faster than it is, just like a person trying to run up an escalator that's going down faster. Therefore, the light we see from some galaxies today is the last light from them that will ever reach us. In a few billion years, those galaxies will pass beyond our cosmic horizon. Their light will be stretched and redshifted so much that it will become undetectable. And then they will vanish. They will continue to exist. But for our universe, for our sphere of causality, they will be gone forever. Our universe is literally shrinking. The observable universe is becoming more desolate every second. However, even this is not the most jarring discovery. The most jarring truth is the one that dynamites one of our most fundamental assumptions. The universe has no universal now. A single right now does not exist. Do you realize how mind-bending that sentence is? The question, what is happening on Mars right now, does not have a single answer. Because it depends on who is asking. Different observers moving at different speeds will disagree on whether events are simultaneous, and both will be right, because the universe doesn't pick a side. There is no preferred frame of reference. The idea that time is absolute was demolished by the genius of Einstein. Because the fact that the speed of light must be constant for everyone leads to the conclusion that space and time must be relative. For a moving observer, time flows more slowly, and distances contract. Two events might be simultaneous for you. But for someone else moving relative to you, one of those events may have happened before the other. And they are not wrong. You are not wrong either. You are just on different slices of space-time. The universe has no master clock. Everyone and everything has its own clock. And these clocks tick at different rates depending on your motion. This means that even the order of events that are outside of each other's causal chain can depend on the observer. All these findings, yes, all these impossible truths, lochu, when brought together, lead to a single conclusion. The universe is not a static box in which objects move. Instead, space-time itself is a dynamic, flexible, and all-determining player, and this player has one single sacred rule. The speed of light, the speed of causality, will remain constant no matter the cost. But how do these rules weave the fabric of the universe? What role does this flexible structure play at the most fundamental level? In the birth of matter and energy? Because the riddles created by these observations push us to an even deeper question. If space-time can be bent, if there is no such thing as now, then what exactly is reality itself made of? Because the answers to these questions take us to the most fundamental building blocks of the universe, or to the strangeness of the quantum world. And the truths there are even more bizarre. Because to understand how space-time can be so flexible, how time can slow down, we need to go deeper, to a scale smaller than even atoms, and to the quantum realm, where all the known rules of reality break down, where probabilities and uncertainties reign. And the discoveries there are not just shocking, they demolish our most fundamental beliefs about what reality is. And the fourth discovery is perhaps the most famous. Born but just also the most misunderstood. E equals c squared. We've all heard this equation. But when we truly understand what it means, the universe never looks the same again. Because this equation doesn't say that energy and mass are convertible. It says that energy and mass are the same thing. Mass is just condensed, frozen energy. That c squared factor. The number 299,792,458 squared or such roughly 90 quadrillion nahas tarsents is just a conversion factor. It's a number that shows how a tiny amount of mass is equivalent to a colossal amount of energy. If you could convert just 1 kilogram of matter completely into energy, you would create an explosion equivalent to about 21.5 megatons of TNT. That's more than 1,400 times the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. From a single kilogram? This is counterintuitive, because matter shaoso, is something solid. Energy is an abstract concept. But relativity says no. They are two sides of the same coin, and the key that connects them is again the speed of light. This is why it makes sense that nothing with mass can reach the speed of light, because as you accelerate an object, you add energy to it. And since energy is equivalent to mass, as its speed increases, so does its mass. As it approaches the speed of light, its mass approaches infinity. Therefore, it would require infinite energy to accelerate it further. This is impossible, but matter is not a solid thing. It is energy, slowed down, condensed, and prevented from reaching the speed of light. But even this pales in comparison to the fifth discovery, which shatters our most basic assumptions. Empty space is not empty. That pitch-black darkness where nothing exists is actually the most active, most crowded place in the universe. Quantum field theory tells us this. What we call a vacuum is filled with a constantly boiling quantum foam. At every moment, everywhere, pairs of particle-antiparticles called virtual particles pop into existence from nothing, interact with each other for a very brief moment, and then annihilate each other, disappearing again. This happens continuously in less than a trillionth of a second. This is called quantum fluctuations. This is not a theory. We can measure its effects in the lab. Phenomena like the Casimir effect or the Lamb shift prove that these virtual particles are real. So why is this important? Because the properties of this nothingness determine everything. The fundamental constants that determine how electric and magnetic fields behave in this emptiness, namely the permeability and permittivity of free space, are actually properties of this quantum foam. And the way these two constants combine determines the speed of light in a vacuum. So, the ultimate speed limit of the universe is born from the texture of nothing. The speed of light is actually a property of the quantum vacuum. The most fundamental constant governing the universe arises from emptiness itself. This shouldn't have been. A vacuum meant nothingness. But now we know it is the foundation of everything. Thus, the picture before us becomes unbelievable. Everything we see is a ghost of the past. The parts of the universe we can observe are constantly disappearing behind our horizon. Everyone has their own time, and there is no universal moment of now. Matter is frozen energy, and empty space is a boiling soup of particles. All these discoveries show what a strange, what counterintuitive place the universe is. The simple, mechanical model of the universe we were taught has been shattered. In its place has come a structure that is flexible, relative, and filled with quantum uncertainties. But beneath all these what questions lies a much harder question. How? How does this structure work? By what fundamental mechanisms do this flexibility of space-time, this mass-energy equivalence, this strange nature of the quantum vacuum operate? Now that we've weathered the shock of the discoveries, it's time to open the hood and look at the engine itself. Because the secret of this incredible universe lies not in the discoveries themselves, but within the flawless architecture that underlies them, connecting everything, hidden within that flawless architecture. But yet, how does this architecture work? It's time to go beyond the shocking discoveries and mind-bending truths and understand the fundamental mechanisms underlying the strange behaviors of the universe. Because now, we're going to open the hood and look at the engine itself, the most fundamental principles of physics. The tempo will slow down a bit, because these mechanisms deserve a careful examination. To understand why the universe is so obsessed with this constant we call the speed of light, we must return to where it all began, to two fundamental ideas. The first mechanism is hidden in the revolutionary idea Einstein proposed in 1905. The laws of physics are the same for everyone. At first glance, this might seem like a simple assumption. But its consequences are enormous. It's just like a person inside a ship who cannot tell if the ship is moving when it's sailing at a constant speed in a straight line, because all physics experiments inside the ship will yield the exact same results as experiments done while the ship is docked in the harbor. You throw a ball in the air, it falls back down the same way, and Einstein thought this principle should apply to all laws of physics. This is known as the principle of relativity. But he added a second, daring assumption to it. The speed of light in a vacuum is the same for all observers, regardless of who is measuring it or how fast they are moving. When these two ideas combine, the universe as we know it begins to crumble, because normally, speeds add up. But this isn't true for light. If you fire a beam of light from a rocket moving at 99% of the speed of light, that beam of light still travels at only the speed of c, not 1.99 c. How can this be? Mathematically, there is only one way out. If the speed is to remain constant, then the other things that define speed, namely distance, space, and duration, time, cannot be constant. They must be relative. This is why for a moving observer, time slows down and distances contract in the direction of motion. These are called the Lorentz transformations. These transformations mathematically describe how space and time bend and reshape themselves to preserve the absolute constancy of the speed of light. That's why this mechanism is so powerful. It shows that the universe doesn't make a choice. There is no correct frame of reference or absolute time. There is only one absolute, the speed of causality, and the entire fabric of the universe stretches to protect this single constant. But how does this stretching turn space and time into a single structure? This is where the second fundamental mechanism comes in: four-dimensional space-time. This was a brilliant idea that Hermann Minkowski derived from Einstein's work. Minkowski realized that space and time were not separate entities. They were different directions in a single four-dimensional structure called space-time. 3 dimensions of space: up, down, char, right, left, forward, backward, and 1 dimension of time. You can think of this structure like a piece of paper. But this paper can be bent and stretched. In this four-dimensional universe, everything has a world line. This is the trace of that object's journey through time. Even when you're standing still, your world line is a straight line upwards, because you're moving through the time dimension. When you move in space, your world line tilts at an angle to the time axis. And here is the critical point. In this four-dimensional space-time, everyone and everything is always moving at the exact same speed. And that speed is c. How can this be? Because this is a four-dimensional speed. It's called the four-velocity. Your total motion is always equal to c. But this motion is shared between the dimensions of space and time. When you are stationary, all of your c speed is used to move in the time dimension at a rate of 1 second per second. When you accelerate in space, your four-velocity vector tilts towards the spatial dimensions. But its total length, your total speed, must still be c. Therefore, to increase your speed in space, you must steal from your speed in time. Your time slows down. When you reach the speed of light, your entire four-velocity is in the spatial dimensions. Your speed in the time dimension drops to 0. This is why time does not pass for photons. This mechanism is the most powerful way to visualize time dilation and length contraction. Because it's not a side effect of motion. It is nothing more than changing your direction in four-dimensional space-time. This four-dimensional structure also presents us with the architecture of causality. The third mechanism, the light cone. For any event in space-time, something that happens at a specific location and a specific time, we can define all the points in the future it can affect and all the points in the past that could have affected it. This structure is called a light cone. The event is at the vertex of the cone. The upward opening part of the cone is the future light cone of that event. This contains all the space-time points that a beam of light emitted from that event can reach. In other words, this is the only place that event can causally affect. Because no influence can travel faster than light, the downward opening part of the cone is the past light cone. This contains all the space-time points that could have influenced that event. Because to send a signal to that event, the signal must arrive at a speed less than or equal to the speed of light. So, what about outside the cone? All space-time points outside the cone are called elsewhere. These points have a space-like separation from the event at the vertex. This means the distance between them is greater than the distance light could travel in that amount of time. Therefore, it's impossible to establish a causal link between an event outside the cone and the event at the vertex. One cannot cause or be affected by the other. This mechanism is incredibly important. It shows that the universe as a whole does not have a now, but that each event has its own local past, future, and causally disconnected elsewhere. Reality is not a universal timeline of the present, but a network of countless interconnected light cones. And the threads of this network are woven at the speed of c. So, we've seen how the principle of relativity and the constancy of the speed of light make space and time relative. We've understood how four-dimensional space-time redefines motion as a tilt between different dimensions. And we've realized how light cones draw the boundaries of causality. These three mechanisms are the cornerstones of Einstein's special theory of relativity. They explain why the speed of light is less of a speed and more of a geometric property of reality. But this is only half the story. Because there's a giant piece missing from this picture: Gravity. These mechanisms work in flat Schacht-Minkowski spacetime, where there is no gravity. So how does mass affect this elegant structure? Because mass doesn't just bend spacetime, it redefines it fundamentally. And this new definition changes the journey of light, and thus our perception of reality, in ways we could never have imagined. Because where mass enters the game, general relativity takes the stage, and at this point, the fourth mechanism completely reconstructs our understanding of the universe. Gravity is not a force. It is the curvature of space-time. Newton had described gravity as a mysterious force acting instantaneously between two masses, like an invisible string keeping the Earth in orbit around the Sun. But Einstein realized this was wrong, because special relativity said that nothing of a whole, and therefore no influence, could travel faster than light. Gravity could not act instantly. So, after 10 years of intense work, Einstein presented a completely different picture. Mass and energy warp the fabric of space-time. Just like a heavy bowling ball placed on a stretched rubber sheet causes it to sag, and other objects, while moving in this curved space-time, think they are moving in a straight line. But the path they follow appears as an orbit due to the curved geometry. The Earth stays in orbit not because it's pulled by a force from the Sun, but because it's following the straightest possible path, called a geodesic, around the space-time pit created by the Sun. Even light is affected by this curvature. Light passing by a large mass like the Sun is deflected because its path is bent. This effect, Schultz known as gravitational lensing, was proven by observations made by Arthur Eddington during a solar eclipse in 1919. The measured amount of deflection was exactly the 1.75 arcseconds predicted by Einstein's equations. This mechanism is revolutionary because it transforms gravity from an instantaneous force into a dynamic part of spacetime's geometry. But gravity's warping of spacetime also affects the flow of time. This brings us to the fifth and perhaps most mind-bending mechanism: gravitational time dilation. Special relativity told us that speed slows down time. General relativity adds that gravity also slows down time. The stronger the gravitational field, the slower time flows. The reason for this, again, is the curvature of spacetime. Returning to the bowling ball metaphor, as you get closer to the center of the sheet, where the mass is densest, the slope increases. This means not only the dimension of space is curved, but the dimension of time is as well. In a strong gravitational field, time behaves as if it's flowing down a steeper slope, and therefore progresses more slowly. This is not a theory. It's a part of our daily lives. GPS satellites must account for this effect. Because these satellites orbit at an altitude of about 20,200 kilometers above the Earth, in a weaker gravitational field. Therefore, the atomic clocks on the satellites run faster than clocks on Earth by about 45 microseconds per day. When you add the special relativity effect from the satellite's high speed, about 14,000 kilometers per hour, which causes a slowing of 7 microseconds per day, the net effect is a speed-up of 38 microseconds per day. If this difference weren't corrected, the position errors in the GPS system would accumulate by more than 10 kilometers every single day, and the system would become completely useless. This mechanism proves that mass directly controls not just space, but also the rate at which time flows. time is not a universal metronome ticking at the same rate everywhere in the universe. It is a local phenomenon, stretching and contracting depending on the local gravity. These two mechanisms of general relativity reinforce at an even deeper level why the speed of light is the ultimate constant. Because light, being massless, follows the straightest paths in space-time, the null geodesics. But when gravity bends these paths, light itself is bent. This means that while the speed of light is always locally c, its path can be elongated over long distances, and thus its arrival time can change. This shows us how gravity shapes causality itself. Consider the event horizon of a black hole. The event horizon is the point where gravity is so strong that the space-time curvature becomes infinite. At this point, all possible paths into the future, all geodesics, point in a single direction, towards the center of the black hole, the singularity. To escape the event horizon, you would need to go faster than light. Since this is impossible, the event horizon itself is an endpoint of causality. No information or matter that enters can ever get out, not even light. Therefore, the event horizon is the most extreme example of how the speed of light is not just a speed limit, but a boundary of space-time geometry, and thus of causality itself. So, we've seen how general relativity redefines gravity and time. These mechanisms allowed us to move from the flat space-time of special relativity to a dynamic universe shaped by mass and energy. Concepts like the curvature of space-time, the slowing of time, and event horizons show why the speed of light is part of the fundamental architecture of the universe. But even in this seemingly perfect structure, there is a crack that raises the tension to the highest level, creates the biggest crisis in modern physics, and forces us to question everything we know. Because everything we've talked about so far explains the large-scale behavior of the universe, relativity. But the universe also has a small-scale behavior, quantum mechanics, and when these two theories come together, they are incompatible. They don't speak to each other. They even reject each other. This is a war at the heart of physics, and right in the middle of this war, at its climax, there is a place where the very meaning of the speed of light, and of causality itself, completely shatters. And we are about to journey to that place, because the real action starts now. And we are about to journey to that place, because the real action starts now. To that battlefield at the heart of physics, the place where the grand, elegant universe of relativity collides with the chaotic, small-scale world of quantum. This is a conflict. This is a crisis. This is the greatest puzzle of modern science. And at the very center of this puzzle, we reach the climax, where everything we know loses its meaning. The tempo is increasing. Hold your breath, because now you will face the most epic, the most shattering, the most mind-bending truths that prove the speed of light is not just a speed, and these truths will ensure you never see your universe the same way again. Because the real miracle is coming now. The first blow. It wasn't an equation. It was the greatest revelation in human history. E equals mc squared. You've seen it everywhere, on t-shirts, on posters. But you have never heard its meaning like this, because this formula doesn't say mass can be converted to energy. It says mass already is energy, frozen, slowed down, pure energy trapped in matter. That c squared factor, the number 299,792,458 multiplied by itself. That colossal number of roughly 90 quadrillion heartbeats is just a translation key. Like, it shows you just how much incredible energy is locked inside a tiny amount of mass. A single paperclip, about 1 gram. If we could convert the mass in that paperclip entirely into energy, the released energy would be equivalent to 21.5 kilotons of TNT. That is 43% more powerful than the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. From a single paperclip, think about your body, a 70-kilogram human body, with its E equals mx squared potential, contains 30 times more energy than the Tsar Bomba, the largest hydrogen bomb ever detonated on Earth. How is this possible? Because the fundamental distinction we've believed in for thousands of years, the distinction between matter and energy, was a lie. The universe was not made of two different things. It was made of one thing, and the speed of light is the code that bridges the two faces of this one thing. When scientists first understood this equation, they realized they weren't just splitting the atom. They were breaking the layer of ice that had frozen reality itself. And what emerged from beneath was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. This was the first rewriting of physics. But perhaps it wasn't the biggest because the second blow was much more personal, much more shattering. You think you're sitting down right now, motionless, calm. You are wrong, completely wrong. You, me, not this planet, everything, at every moment, is moving through space-time at exactly one speed. That speed, 299,792,458 meters per second. The speed of light, always, without exception. This is the most mind-bending truth in physics. Your stillness is an illusion. You are a time traveler, moving through the dimension of time at the highest possible speed. When you decide to move through space, for example, when you start walking, you don't create that speed from nothing. You steal it from your movement through time. Your four-dimensional speed is constant. The faster you accelerate in space, the slower you move in time. If you were one day on a ship that reached 99.9999% of the speed of light, time for you would be 2,236 times slower than for those on Earth. A year passed on Earth would last only 15 hours for you. And now we understand why it takes infinite energy to reach the speed of light. Because at that point, time would completely stop for you. You would have transferred all your speed to the space dimension. And that is impossible, because mass binds you to time. This discovery created an earthquake in the scientific world, because the concept of motion was redefined. Motion wasn't about going from one place to another. Motion was about changing your direction in a four-dimensional reality. And all of us, from the moment we are born to the moment we die, are ships gliding through the ocean of space-time. At this cosmic speed limit, we just decide which direction to lean, and by how much. But now, the greatest heresy, the universal now, is dead. This sentence is a dagger plunged into the heart of modern physics. The moment you realize that the question, what is happening in the Andromeda galaxy right now, is meaningless, is the moment reality slips out from under your feet. Because special relativity proved that simultaneity is not absolute. So whether two events happen at the same time depends entirely on the observer. Imagine an example. A flash goes off in a lab on Earth. At the exact same instant, a robotic arm on Mars picks up a rock. For you, these two events are simultaneous. But consider a spaceship passing between Earth and Mars at 80% of the speed of light. For an astronaut on that ship, the event on Mars happened seconds before the event on Earth. For an astronaut on another ship going in the opposite direction, the event on Earth happened seconds before the one on Mars. Who is right? The answer? Everyone. Because the universe has no master clock. There is no preferred now line. Reality is a personal film strip, shaped by each observer's own motion. When this idea first emerged, it created an ontological panic among scientists. If the question when is relative, what is real? This wasn't just a philosophical problem. It showed that the fundamental fabric of the universe was not built on a solid foundation as we had thought, but on a constantly shifting, whole, fluid sea of possibilities. This was the third, sat, and heaviest blow to humanity's cosmic significance. The final blow, the most brutal. The universe is not a place. The universe is a prison, and the walls of this prison are the speed of light itself. How can this be? Because the speed of light is the limit of causality, the speed at which one event can affect another. But the universe is also expanding and accelerating. When these two facts combine, the most isolating discovery in history emerges. The observable universe is about 93 billion light-years in diameter. It's estimated to contain about 2 trillion galaxies. But this is not the entire universe. This is only the part from which light has had time to reach us in 13.8 billion years. According to the most recent calculations, the entire universe is at least 250 times larger than this observable part, perhaps infinite. This means at least 99.6% of the universe is forever unreachable for us. We will never see the trillions of galaxies, the quadrillions of stars, the potential life forms there. We will never know. But it gets worse, because the expansion of space is accelerating. Some distant galaxies we can see right now are moving away from us faster than light, the light leaving them. Even if it travels towards us, will never reach us because the space between us is expanding faster. Those galaxies are disappearing from view, one by one. Behind our cosmic horizon, they cease to exist for us. Our universe is literally getting emptier every second. This is not a technological limit. This is the most fundamental law of physics. The speed of light is a prison wall that separates us from the rest of the universe, and those walls are constantly closing in on us. This discovery turned the concept of cosmic loneliness from poetry into a brutal mathematical fact. And so, everything was demolished. Matter was frozen energy. Stillness was an illusion. There was no such moment as now, and we were trapped forever from the rest of the universe. All these discoveries, all this destruction showed how rotten the fundamental pillars of the universe actually were. Or so we thought. But behind this chaos, in the midst of this demolition, the deepest secret of the universe was hidden, a clue that brought everything together. Because all 4 of these catastrophes pointed to one single thing, one fundamental truth. And that truth may be the key to understanding not just the universe, but existence itself. Because this destruction was actually a rebirth, perhaps infinite. This means at least 99.6% of the universe is forever unreachable for us. We will never see the trillions of galaxies, the quadrillions of stars, the potential life forms there. We will never know. But it gets worse, because the expansion of space is accelerating. Some distant galaxies we can see right now are moving away from us faster than light, the light leaving them, even if it travels towards us, will never reach us because the space between us is expanding faster. Those galaxies are disappearing from view, one by one. Behind our cosmic horizon, they cease to exist for us. Our universe is literally getting emptier every second. This is not a technological limit. This is the most fundamental law of physics. The speed of light is a prison wall that separates us from the rest of the universe, and those walls are constantly closing in on us. This discovery turned the concept of cosmic loneliness from poetry into a brutal mathematical fact. And so, everything was demolished. Matter was frozen energy. Stillness was an illusion. There was no such moment as now, and we were trapped forever from the rest of the universe. All these discoveries, all this destruction showed how rotten the fundamental pillars of the universe actually were. Or so we thought. But behind this chaos, in the midst of this demolition, the deepest secret of the universe was hidden, a clue that brought everything together. Because all four of these catastrophes pointed to one single thing, one fundamental truth. And that truth may be the key to understanding not just the universe, but existence itself. Because this destruction was actually a rebirth. Because this destruction was actually a rebirth, a purification. It was the moment science shed its old dogmas and met the true face of the universe. And on that face, behind a terrifying chaos, the first hints of a perfect order began to appear. Because all four of these catastrophes, about matter, time, motion, and the universe itself, were fed from a single source, a single fundamental constant, the constant speed of light. This could not be a coincidence. This was a pattern. The universe was telling us something. It was telling us, nothing you thought you understood is as it seems. But at the foundation of everything, there is a simple, elegant, and absolute rule. And now, it's time to face the most incredible, the most mind-bending, the most epic consequences created by that rule. As because the chaos is over. Now is the time for synthesis, the fifth blow, perhaps the quietest, but the most profound. For a photon, time does not pass. These 5 words are the deepest meditation in modern physics. Consider a photon that leaves the sun. For you, Sabru, about 8 minutes and 20 seconds pass until that photon reaches Earth. It travels about 150 million kilometers during that time. But for the photon itself, in its experience, no time passes. 0. The moment of emission and the moment of absorption are the same moment for it. It has traveled 150 million kilometers in 0 time. For it, the surface of the sun and your retina are adjacent. There is no space between them. How can this be? Because when you move at the speed of light, the time dilation factor in the Lorentz transformation equations becomes infinite. This means that no matter how much time passes for the outside universe, the time that passes for you will be 0. This is not just a mathematical curiosity. This is the foundation of the nature of light. Light is not something that travels through space. Light is a timeless bridge that connects 2 points in space-time. It is causality itself. This discovery divided scientists. Some argued it was just a meaningless mathematical result, because there could be no such thing as a photon's point of view. But others understood that it was whispering the deepest secret of the universe. Perhaps time itself is an illusion created by us, beings with mass, by slowing down our motion. Perhaps the fundamental state of the universe is timelessness, and we are fish, moving slowly in that ocean of timelessness, thereby creating the perception of duration. The sixth blow, the most terrifying, quantum entanglement, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, the nightmare that haunted him until the end of his life. Consider two particles. They are somehow entangled with each other. Then send them to opposite ends of the universe, one to Earth, the other to a galaxy 10 billion light-years away. Now, measure a property of the particle on Earth. For example, its spin. Let's say it comes out up at that exact instant, instantly, in less than a trillionth of a second. The other particle 10 billion light-years away knows that its spin must be down. How is this possible? There is a 10 billion year wall of causality between them, and no signal could travel faster than light. This was a direct assault on the heart of Einstein's theory of relativity, the principle of causality. This should have been impossible. But in 1964, John Bell developed a theorem by which it could be tested, and experiments conducted since the 1980s by Alan Aspect and later by John Clauser and Anton Zeilinger, which won them the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics, have proven time and again that this spooky action is real. There really seemed to be an instantaneous connection between the two particles. Did this mean the speed of light limit was broken? No, because this effect cannot be used to transmit information. The outcomes are random. But it showed that the universe is not local. 2 points, no matter how far apart, can still be part of a single system. So some physicists think this is the strongest evidence that space-time itself is an illusion, emerging from a deeper quantum reality. Perhaps those two particles are not actually far apart. Perhaps what we call space is an illusion that doesn't exist in this deeper reality, and the speed of light is the speed of causality within that illusion. The seventh and final blow, the end of known physics, the black hole information paradox. Whatever falls into a black hole cannot come back. This includes information. But one of the most fundamental laws of quantum mechanics says that information can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed. These two fundamental laws collide head-on at the surface of a black hole. The event horizon. See, in 1974, Stephen Hawking showed that black holes are not actually completely black, but that they evaporate very slowly through a process called Hawking radiation. But this evaporation was thermal and random. It carried no trace of the information that fell in. So where did the information go? This question has been the biggest crisis in theoretical physics for the last 50 years. Thousands of papers have been written. The brightest minds have wrestled with this problem. And one of the most promising ideas to emerge is the holographic principle. According to this principle, everything that happens in a three-dimensional space can be described as information encoded on a two-dimensional surface that surrounds that space, just like a hologram on a credit card. For a black hole, this could mean that all the information that falls in is actually stored on the event horizon, a two-dimensional surface. But physicists like Gerard 't Hooft and Leonard Susskind took this idea a step further. What if not just black holes, but the entire universe is a hologram? What if the three-dimensional reality we live in is a projection of a quantum movie playing on a two-dimensional screen at the very distant boundary of the universe? This is one of the most radical ideas. But it has the potential to solve the black hole information paradox, and if it's true, it shows that space, time, and the speed of light are not fundamental. They are emergent phenomena, born from a deeper, two-dimensional, quantum world of information. A photon's timeless journey, the spooky instantaneousness of entanglement, and the possibility that the universe might be a hologram. All these shocking, mind-bending ideas have brought us to one place, the boundary of known physics, the sacred ground where relativity and quantum mechanics merge. These ideas show that the speed of light is much more than a speed limit. It is the curtain of the reality we experience, and behind that curtain, there may be a timeless, spaceless, quantum world where everything is interconnected. This is the climax, the quiet moment that follows destruction and chaos, the moment the universe tells us, "This is what I actually am." But now the tempo must slow. After this dizzying journey, it's time to stop and breathe, because it's time to ask what all these epic discoveries and shattering theories mean for us, for the curious beings on this small planet. What do we do with this knowledge? How does this reality change our lives? Our search for meaning? Because ultimately, the purpose of science is not just to understand the universe, but to understand our place within it. And what does this new map tell us? To help us find our way? And what does this new map tell us? To help us find our way, it's time to stop running, to breathe, and to think. After the dizzying speed and shocking discoveries, we now face the most important question. What is our place in this universe? Within this vast, strange, and often incomprehensible cosmos? What are we, living on this small, pale blue dot, to do with all this knowledge? Because everything the speed of light has taught us illuminates the most fundamental paradoxes, the deepest contradictions of our existence. And these contradictions reveal a truth that is both tragic and magnificent. We have arrived at the quiet moment when the universe whispers to us both how small we are and how great we can be, all at once. Let's start with the first paradox, the infinity of the universe and our limitations. On one hand, there is a universe that is literally at least 250 times larger than what we can observe. Perhaps infinite. We have an observational horizon 93 billion light-years in diameter, containing at least 2 trillion galaxies like our Milky Way, countless stars, countless worlds, possibilities beyond our wildest imagination. On the other hand, there is us, beings with an average lifespan of 80 years and fragile biological bodies that can barely leave our own planet. The speed of light builds a brutal wall between these two realities. That wall is the wall of causality. This is the tragic truth. We do not belong to that universe. We are merely a small prisoner of it. Even to get to the nearest star, Proxima Centauri, would take our fastest spacecraft about 70,000 years. Reaching the nearest galaxy, Andromeda, would take 2.5 million years. Even at the speed of light, these numbers are so large they become meaningless. The rest of the universe will remain forever like a jewel behind a display case, something we can never touch or just never go to. We are beings living on the shore of a cosmic ocean, with a boat too small to ever set sail. This holds a deep sadness, a loneliness, a sense of confinement. But here is the word that changes everything. But we can see behind that display case, Even if we cannot set sail in our boat, we can map that ocean. This is the beautiful truth. Our biology may have imprisoned us on this planet, but our minds, our imagination, and our science carry us to the farthest corners of the universe. Light is a messenger that brings us stories from those distant lands. Yes, the messages are old, from billions of years ago. But they still reach us, and we, within these small bodies on this planet, have developed the intelligence to decipher those messages. We can see the baby picture of the universe from just 380,000 years after the Big Bang. The cosmic microwave background. We can watch how the first galaxies formed 13 billion years ago. We can hear the gravitational waves from the event horizon of a black hole, the universe we cannot physically reach. We can conquer mentally. We are the parts of the universe trying to understand itself. We are the organs through which the universe becomes self-aware. Therefore, you too, as you read these words right now, are standing in the middle of this paradox. You are smaller than a speck of dust compared to the infinity of the universe. But at the same time, you are a giant who can weigh that infinity in your mind, who tries to understand it. You too are a prisoner of this cosmic prison. But you are also a prophet who can see beyond its walls. This is our power. To be unable to reach, Akisi, but to be able to understand. This is the tragic yet magnificent condition of being human. The second paradox, the eternity of time and our momentary existence. The universe has existed for 13.8 billion years, and it will likely continue to exist for trillions more. Our star, Isat, the Sun, is about 4.6 billion years old. So is our planet. But human history, it's only been 5,000 years since the invention of writing. Modern science is an adventure of only a few hundred years. And your life, an average of 80 years. If we were to compress the entire history of the universe into 1 year, humanity would appear on the last day of that year, December 31st, at 11:52 p.m. Your entire life would not even be the last split second of the last second of that year. This is the second tragic truth. We are a drop of water that flashes for an instant and disappears in the ocean of time. We exist for the blink of an eye, and then we are gone. Billions of years existed before us. Billions of years will exist after us. In this colossal timeline, what meaning can our existence have? Isn't everything we do, everything we love, hate, build, watch, and destroy, nothing more than a speck of dust to be blown away by the winds of cosmic time? This thought can create a sense of meaninglessness, a feeling of nothingness. But we are in that moment. We are in that brief but most important moment when the universe questions itself. This is the second beautiful truth. Yes, we exist for the blink of an eye. But in that brief moment, we can understand the 13.8 billion year history of the universe. We can look to the past and see the Big Bang. We can look to the future and predict the fate of stars and galaxies. That brief moment is the moment the universe becomes aware of its own existence. Like the question of whether a tree falling in a forest makes a sound. The universe existed silently for billions of years. But when conscious beings emerged to observe it, to question it, to marvel at its beauty and mystery, the universe became audible for the first time. We are the beings who tell the story of the universe, who give meaning to its silence. Therefore, you too, with your short life, are one of the most important actors in this immense cosmic drama. You are not just living for a moment. You are that moment, that priceless moment in which the universe experiences itself. This short life is not a curse. It is a privilege, the privilege of witnessing eternity, of understanding it, and of giving it meaning. Yes, our time is limited, but that makes it all the more precious, because that brief moment can be more meaningful than eternity itself. The third and final paradox, our cosmic loneliness and our deep connection. The speed of light builds a brutal wall separating us from the rest of the universe. As we've seen, more than 99% of the universe is forever closed to us. Galaxies are disappearing one by one behind our horizon. Even if there is another civilization we could communicate with, the distances and time delays between us make any meaningful conversation impossible. The eerie silence of the Fermi paradox reminds us every night of how vast and how empty the universe is. This is the third tragic truth. We are like orphans locked in different rooms of a giant mansion, unaware of each other's existence. This is vacanz, at the most fundamental level, a cosmic loneliness. We are alone in the universe. But that loneliness only applies when we look up, at the stars. When we look down, beside us, we face a completely different reality. We are connected to each other. This is the third and most hopeful, beautiful truth. While the laws of the universe separate us, the same laws bind us together on this planet. We are all made of the same stardust. We all share the same carbon, oxygen, and iron atoms forged in the heart of a giant star billions of years ago. We all share the same fate under the thin atmosphere of this pale blue dot. Quantum entanglement whispers to us how deeply connected the universe can be at its most fundamental level. Two particles can remain as a single whole, defying all the space and time between them. But perhaps this is not a peculiarity unique to the subatomic world. Perhaps this is a lesson the universe is giving us. Separation is an illusion. Wholeness is the fundamental truth. Therefore, you too, no matter how lonely you feel, are never truly alone. You are part of a family of 8 billion people. You are part of a biosphere filled with countless species. You are the heir to a 4.6 billion year geological and biological history. We are passengers on a life raft adrift in the cosmic ocean. And all we have on this journey is each other. The speed of light may separate us from other islands, but it should bring us closer together on our own island, because our only answer to this cosmic loneliness is our human togetherness. All these contradictions, all these paradoxes, they are the lessons the speed of light has taught us. So we are beings who are limited yet understanding, momentary yet meaning-giving, alone yet together. This is our place in the universe. But realizing this place is just a beginning, because this awareness brings with it a responsibility, and this awareness brings with it a responsibility. It is the responsibility to think not just about what we are, but about what we ought to be. Because this new map the universe has offered us is not just a scientific reality. It is also a moral compass. Following the direction that compass points may be our species' greatest test. These lessons taught by the speed of light also illuminate the other fundamental contradictions of our existence. And these contradictions lay bare both our greatest weakness, Jarrah, and our greatest strength. Let's continue with the fourth paradox, our search for meaning and the indifference of the universe. On one hand, there is us. We are beings programmed by nature to seek meaning, to attribute a purpose, an intention, a why to everything. We create art, We do philosophy. We believe in religions. We try to solve the secrets of the universe with science. We want our lives to have a story, a narrative. On the other hand, there is a universe that, as far as we understand, is completely indifferent. The laws of physics do not contain purpose or intention. They just are. The explosion of a star, the formation of a planet, or the extinction of a species is neither good nor bad for the universe. It is just an event. The speed of light is the purest form of this indifference. Yet that constant of 299,792,458 meters per second carries no moral value. It is just a result of the geometry of space-time. This is the fourth tragic truth. We have found our meaning-seeking souls inside a meaningless machine. This creates an existential void. If the universe has no purpose, what can our purpose be? If everything is ultimately heading towards a heat death in a cold, empty universe, what meaning do our efforts have? But the fact that the universe does not offer us a meaning does not mean we cannot create one. This is the fourth and most creative, beautiful truth. Perhaps the greatest gift the universe has given us is its indifference. Because this indifference grants us the freedom to create our own meaning. It offers a blank canvas, and it is entirely up to us what colors we paint on that canvas. In science, love, art, compassion, justice. These are not things the universe whispers to us. These are the answers we shout back against the silence of the universe. The speed of light may be constant, but the beauty of the equations we build upon that constant depends on us. Gravity may bind us to this planet. But what kind of society we build on that planet depends on us. Therefore, you too do not have to search for the meaning of your life in the stars. You are the source of that meaning. Your passions, your values, your relationships, your creations. These are the small but bright lights you ignite against the indifference of the universe. And when the small lights lit by billions of people come together, they create a bonfire that can illuminate even the darkest cosmic nights. Meaning is not found. A meaning is created, and this is our greatest power. Our fifth and final paradox on this journey, the greatness of our knowledge and the infinity of our ignorance. Looking back, the progress we've made in the last 400 years, especially in the last century, is incredible. We've figured out the age, size, and fundamental laws of the universe, the structure of the atom, the code of life, with two revolutionary theories like relativity and quantum mechanics. We've reached an incredible understanding of the fabric of reality. The knowledge we have is many times greater than the total knowledge of all of humanity at any previous time. This is the intellectual triumph of humankind, an achievement we should be proud of. We've solved the secret of the speed of light. This is the fifth beautiful truth. Our capacity to acquire and understand knowledge is the most defining feature of our species. But the more we learn, the better we understand how little we know. This is the fifth and most humbling tragic truth. Every answer brings with it dozens of new questions. We've understood relativity and quantum mechanics, but we still haven't found a theory of everything that unites them. We have no idea what dark matter and dark energy, which make up 95% of the universe or art, are. We don't know how consciousness arises, how life first began. Everything we know forms a sphere we can call our sphere of knowledge. And as this sphere expands, its surface area of contact with the ocean of ignorance also increases. Therefore, A scientist at the pinnacle of science is often the most humble person, because they know best how vast the ocean is. This situation can create a sense of helplessness. The fact that we can never know everything might seem like a failure. At the end of this entire dizzying journey, after all these discoveries, paradoxes, and philosophical reflections, we now stand here. We now know that the speed of light is not just a number. It is the cornerstone of the universe's architecture. It is a cosmic language that connects space and time, mass and energy, cause and effect. We now know that we are both infinitely small and infinitely important in this universe, both tragically limited and magnificently free, both in a cosmic loneliness and part of a deep wholeness. We are approaching the end of our journey. But this is not an end. It is a return to where it all began, with a new awareness, because the greatest lesson the speed of light has taught us is perhaps more important than anything we've learned about the universe. That lesson tells us something about ourselves, and to understand that final lesson, we must now look one more time, for the last time, at that simple yet profound number, 299,792,458 meters per second, because within that number lies the secret, not just of the universe, but of us as well. In this journey, we've seen that the speed of light is a fundamental law of the universe. But there's something I didn't tell you. Its strangest rule might also govern our reality: quantum entanglement. That spooky action that instantly connects particles billions of light years apart. In our next journey, we will explore this connection. Are you ready?